What's up, guys? Welcome to Roensch Capital Charts. Today we're taking a look at Nvidia stock, ticker symbol NVDA, on a variety of time frames in anticipation of the next trading day, Thursday, March 7th. All right, guys, Nvidia stock here today up $27.36 a share. That's 3.18% to the upside. The stock is, it's down about $1.70 as of the recording of this video in the after hours. Listen, as always, whether it's supporting your thesis or going against your current bias, volume is, you almost can't even see it. Volume is tremendously low. Take after hours always with a grain of salt, with one exception. If there's an earnings event or some other business-specific catalyst that pushes volume to exceed potentially some of the intraday volume, then the after hours movement is more definitive, but 99% of the time we have to take it with a grain of salt. But let's move on here and get started with our daily ritual, the volume profile analysis here on the 5-minute chart. Listen, by the way, if you have not done so already, please subscribe to the channel. I greatly appreciate it. Let's dive in here. So Nvidia today with another all-time high here, 897.24 intraday. Let's take a look at what the volume profile had to say about that. There are a few moves that I want to pay extremely close attention to. That's going to be this downside move in the morning. Okay, this upside move intraday, and then this fade and recovery into the close. Let's take a look and see if we can pull anything out of those moves here. Now, we can see here that we're typically expecting a U-shape, right? And it's usually pretty accurate, and typically that opening candle is going to be higher than the closing candle. However, this closing candle is the first after hours candle, and it's likely that we were seeing some funds or institutions doing some rebalancing, and the candle itself wasn't all that large, so that tells us that it was likely a battle between the bulls and the bears pumping up that volume. So what I think we should do is not really look at that last candle and look at what we can pull out of the intraday. Now, this first move, that was a downside move in the morning. We saw some consistently higher volume. However, it was a little bit choppy. Okay, and we saw some green volume that basically matched that lower candle, and we saw some higher green volume on that little bit of a pump in the opening drive before that fade. You might have someone who's bearish on Nvidia argue that that's a little bit bearish. For me, I'm going to call that kind of a wash. It's not really contextual enough or definitive enough for me to actually pull any real information out of that. This intraday upside move, we did see a little bit of accelerating volume. However, on the fade, we saw kind of equal volume. So again, bulls, I'm going to call that one a wash as well in that move to the all-time high. I actually thought it was interesting that we didn't get more volume on that push, like 1 million plus on the all-time high. But the all-time highs are coming so easily on Nvidia lately. I'm not really sure it's too exciting to traders at this point, since it seems to be happening like every day. Now, this close, in terms of volume, the size of the volume bars, right? It is contextual, but we got 5-minute volume bars in a row that were green, whereas on that fade, it was a lot more of a mixed bag here. Okay, so the market clearly determined that this was going to be a green close without very much argument out of the bears. So, is it the most groundbreaking profile analysis we've ever done here? Of course not, but interesting to say the least. Let's move on now to the highly important psychological, self-fulfilling prophecy levels of interest that I'm going to be paying extremely close attention to come tomorrow's trading day here. Now let's start on the 30-minute chart. I, of course, have the most heavily used indicators, the 200 period and the 50 period, just because they are the most psychological, the most supportive of my theory that I hold very dear to my heart, that TA is really nothing more, nothing less than a self-fulfilling prophecy. By the way, it's exactly how I would want it to be if it were a different way. I may not be in this line of work. So we have to look at these stock charts as a chart of psychology just as much as anything else. So the 50 period here is extremely in play because just yesterday, Tuesday, we were struggling. Whereas today, we spent the entirety of the day above that level. Any retest of the 50 period, gonna want to see an above average volume as clean as possible, bounce. But bulls, we did see with this move here today, that 50 period accelerating to the upside, a continuation of that upside move at an accelerated rate, would be an exciting thing to see here. Tomorrow, bears, you're going to want to see that 50 period ideally flatten out as much as possible, if not a hard downside break through that level on, again, above average volume to put us back inside the channel between the 50 and the 200 here on the 30-minute chart. Let's move on here now to the 4-hour chart. You can see that there's been so much upside in this name lately that 50 period is still struggling to keep up. But I think what a lot of people don't realize is that it is making light work of keeping up with these moves as best as it can. I would love to see it as close to that stock price as possible, just another psychological barrier to support a bullish thesis. So bulls, it's above $800 a share, which is something we've talked about very recently. I mean, we just yesterday, Tuesday night, we're talking about how it would be a great thing to see that continue and get above $800 a share, right, in a more definitive manner. It's now at like 812. Okay, so it has done that with ease. But bulls, we really don't want to see a retest of that because that's quite a move away. I mean, a retest of that 50 period here on the 4-hour chart, you're talking like an 8% pullback. Obviously not ideal. So the bulls' ideal scenario here on the 4-hour chart is just going to be to see that 50 period continuing upside at an accelerated rate. Next target on that is going to be getting above 850 a share, but understanding that it's likely to take a couple of days, minimum, to get to do that. But as soon as possible would be great. Bears, a flattening out. It's unlikely without a large pullback to see that 50 period getting back below 800. Again, you would likely need a pretty big pullback on higher volume to see that thing curl over and then really get below 8. But just flattening out ahead of 825, 850 bears would be your ideal scenario, being that we are, an 8% downside move still away from that 50 period here, being that this is a shorter term analysis here, looking ahead to tomorrow. Now, let's take a look at the most important chart of all, which is going to be the daily, and take a look at our most simple, most contextual psychological story that we can possibly pull. What is it? Right? To me, it's quite obvious. The story here tomorrow, guys, it's $900 a share. If I'm a bull, that would of course be an all-time high, but if I'm a bull, I would love to see a close above 9 tomorrow. And that's really all I'm worried about here tomorrow. I would love to see a close above 9. Again, below average volume, if we were to break $900 a share on below average volume into an hour before the close, then hold it. To me, it's less convincing. But an average or above average volume hold, ideally above average, above 900 through the close would be beautiful. Bears, any test of 9, you want to see a hard rejection off that round number on as much volume as possible. Below average volume, again, is not really going to do it, at least for me. But a high volume rejection off of 9 would be a great thing to see, and a huge fade. When I say huge, I mean a definitive, decisive, big volume downside move, ideally getting back toward 875, 850. So the story here on the daily is really rather simple here tomorrow. Implied volatility here on the name, currently sitting at about the mid-range compared to the last few months here. Understand the higher that goes, the higher the potential risk for IV crush, and the lower that goes, the more favorable conditions become for new options buyers to purchase new contracts. And speaking of them, let's take a look. I know this is a lot of your guys' favorite part of the video, probably is mine too. Let's take a look here at the bias that we got out of the traders in the options chain just from today as we head into tomorrow. So we had 1.76 million total contracts traded, good sample size. 1.09 million calls and about 673,000 puts. Rather heavy call side bias on Nvidia today as traders position themselves heading into tomorrow, Thursday. But hang on, if we break this down by time frame, if you look here, every single delta range is leaning call side except for the 0 to 20 delta range, which is going to be the on average, the much more short-term speculator category. 265,000 calls, about 364,000 puts. But then again, that is the only delta range that is leaning put heavy, giving us an overall ratio that's leaning rather call heavy. Listen, if you guys are looking to learn how to trade or further develop yourself as a trader, look at joining our private trading group at that link in the pinned comment. Of course, trading every day. We're going to start doing a lot more educational classes in the group as well. Trainings that are specifically released for members of the group. Of course, every day I'm releasing my personal scalp setup alerts, Also, I'm dropping in-play stock alerts. These are stocks that have the attention of a lot of traders at that exact moment that I come across that fit my criteria to anticipate that they are in-play stocks, and a lot of traders are watching them, which of course provides a lot more edge, provided they're traded with good risk management, because you're trading against mostly humans in that scenario rather than algorithms like in a lot of bigger stocks, just intraday scalping. So hope to see you join again. It's that link in the pinned comment. On your way out, if you got value out of this video, please subscribe to the channel. I do greatly appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one.